With everything that's going on in the world today, it has become so apparent that it is more important than ever to be growing lots of good quality food in your own garden so that you've got something if there is food shortages or even just with the high fuel prices and food prices. So I want to go over 5 things that I think are super important to be growing in your survival garden, tell you why we like them and how we use them.
White potatoes are the first thing on our list. White potatoes are super easy to grow, at least in my opinion. Very little pest control for us. I know some people have lots of problems with potato beetles. We don't have that here. You can store them in a nice cool basement, or you can store them in a root cellar like we do. For years I just stored them in my basement. You might have to pick off the sprouts every now and then throughout the winter. They're very nutritious and filling. You can sit down and eat a potato with butter and salt and feel very satisfied.
So what makes one vegetable worthy of being in a survival garden over another? The criteria that we give for vegetables being grown in a survival garden is that they require no canning or freezing, they store very well, that they are easy to grow, they don't require a lot of pest control, and they're very nutritious and filling so that you can make like a whole meal out of just like 1 or 2 things.
Sweet potatoes are actually, I think they're even easier to grow than white potatoes, especially if you get the kind where the potatoes are all at the base of the plant. Because all these root vegetables grow in the ground, they are directly against the soil and they're soaking up all of those minerals. The orange color is awesome. That shows you that there's lots of vitamins. You can cure them before you put them in your root cellar or basement. Honestly, I don't. And they still store all winter long. One thing I really want to get across in this video is that survival food is going to look different from one family to another family. What I mean by that is, like, if white potatoes aren't working for you in your climate, and then scratch those and try a different root vegetable that's equally nutritious, that you can grow in abundance and be a success with. If you just push through with, let's say, white potatoes, you'll end up with not much at the end of the year. If you'd be a pioneer, you'd starve. Don't let your ideals and what you think needs to happen keep you from actually being a success. So this is one of our 2 carrot beds. I grow lots of carrots because carrots store really well if you throw them in a plastic bag and stick them in your fridge. At this point, I haven't tried them in my root cellar yet. It's just so easy to put them in my fridge. One thing that I really focus on with carrots is I thin them meticulously. Like, every single one I thin to at least 1 inch or 1.5 inches apart. For carrots, just like any other vegetable that you want to store, like onions, sweet potatoes, white potatoes, you want the actual vegetable to be big. The bigger it is, the better it will store. That's a huge key for survival food. Carrots are super nutritious and I use them in like everything. Like pretty much every soup that I make, soup and stew, will have carrots in it.
We grow lots of greens. This is a raised bed in front of our house that's full of greens. We also grow lots of tomatoes, onions, and lots of stuff like that. But the reason they're not in our survival food list is because while those are really good things to have in your garden, really good things to grow, they're not going to be something that's going to store really well. You're not going to be eating those greens in the middle of the winter that you grew in the summer. You're not going to be making a whole meal out of some kind of tomato sauce. That's something good that's to go along with the food that you have. And it's a good thing to grow and to can and to store and things like that, but it's not gonna be your survival food, if you wanna put it that way.
Okay, this is our garlic bed, and I'm including garlic in my survival garden just simply because it is so incredibly healing. It is basically an antibiotic in vegetable form, and we use it for our cow if she gets mastitis. We use it for ourselves when we get colds, and so it's not gonna be really filling, but because it is so nutritious and healing, we have this in our survival garden.
We grow a lot of raspberries. We pick gallons and gallons of those during the summer. We grow lots of strawberries. Insanely delicious. Fresh strawberries are incredible. We planted some currant bushes last year and it looks like we'll be getting a harvest this year. We're excited about that, to be able to try in some jams, maybe some pies. We use strawberries and raspberries in jams, and that kind of stuff is really good to have in store. Perennial fruit is awesome to have on your homestead, but again, it's not in that like top 5 list for survival foods for your garden.
Butternut squash is one of my very favorite survival foods because it stores so incredibly well. It literally, you can put it in the root cellar or a cool basement and it will last like for an entire year. I mean, you can bring your squash back upstairs and it looks just like it did when you put it down there. They do have some disease and pest problems. We just do our best, and usually the fruit is ripe before the plant is dead. So we call that a win. Butternut squash is really nutritious. There again, you've got that deep orange color. I make pumpkin pies, I make squash soup, I make all sorts of stuff with butternut squash, which is why it's so cool. You can make desserts with it as well as savory dishes.
There's a lot of things you can grow in your garden, a lot of things you should grow because it's insanely good food, very nutritious, way better than anything you're gonna get from the store. But if you're wanting to grow a survival garden, you're wanting to have the main things, maybe you just have a small amount of space, maybe you only have a limited amount of time. While these things can be fun to grow and really good and tasty to eat, it's not the most important things to put in your garden.
Knowing what to grow and how to grow it are two different things. If you'd like to know how we grow some of this stuff, check out this video right here. Is that it? Yes.